Usually when I speak about history, we start off from 652. So that was the settlement of Europe right here. But the human presence in this part of South Africa dates back to more than 27,000 years ago.
I find it inconceivable that the Dutch sailed past the lovely Cape and said, oh, there's a lovely vacant piece of land, let's go and set up there.
I don't think we pay enough homage to the fact that slaves contributed significantly, not to the building of the castle only, but the building of the Cape economy, of the South African economy, and we don't do enough. It's very important that we do commend what government has put in, 108 million rand to deal with the physical makeover and to make it a better castle.
It's not done for its own sake, just because the Defence Force wants to be nice, but it's done in order to create an environment in which people can not only begin to find themselves, but also to seek to understand each other.
Obviously, the Dutch were not the first people to arrive on the southwestern coast of South Africa. There were the Portuguese before them, the Spaniards before them. But I think why the focus is on the Dutch when they landed here in 1652, and even before that, they meant business.
The Europeans were not willing to learn the means and the mechanisms of communication and ways of living of the indigenous people.
A lot of the information has been lost and it's not really residing within Cape Town anymore, like the old name of Cape Town. So that's where I heard of the Cape, meaning covered in clouds.
I think the arrival of the Dutch in South Africa at the southernmost tip of Africa, to me, points to the first point of land dispossession at the tip of Africa.
This place called Cape is a beautiful place and it's always been like that. You can imagine like this backdrop of Table Mountain, very green, beautiful, lush green, filled with food, different types of medicines. It's a bit of a utopia right here. So for the Khoi people living here, they thrived here. This was an amazing place for them. Some of the oral history also says this is where spirituality among Khoi and Bushman people occurred. This is where the birthing of spirituality. And even the name Hurikwaga, mountain rising out of the sea, takes us even way back because they had the knowledge of the space even before it is as it is now, when it was once covered in the ocean.
The apartheid government used to detain people for days and days and days until they confessed to things they never did. Why are you surprised at that? That was common practice at the castle long before the apartheid government.
I was one confronted in that area, in the torture chamber, by a white woman. And she was quite angry. She said, the way that you interpret the history is very wishy-washy, it's very superficial. But you know that my great-grandmother she had a relationship with a slave at this castle. And the slave, the man, was sentenced to death. But my great-great-grandmother was sentenced to be tortured and mutilated. She was first kept in the torture chamber, and when her face was branded, she was cut. There were literally marks with a hot iron burned into her flesh so that no man would be interested in her. This woman was angry. And she was from France, I think, presumably. She spoke with an accent. And why don't you, in a sensitive manner, also portray what kind of injustices happened in this society? And that really made me set up straight. Because I thought by putting a chain there, by hanging, by putting sewing this pulley, we are doing enough. We're really at that point where we want to not only talk about the good things that happen at the castle, or, we're already at the point where we want to balance the castle, but really to give us interpretation techniques to speak to this woman's pain, to also make her feel that the real true story are the people who were in and out of the torture chambers. Some of them were put behind a horse cart, or horses, and pulled out of this castle and were put on either under the gallows or on a, what do we call, a pole outside of the castle for the crows and the birds of prey to eat their flesh.